What do you think of when I say the word token? Maybe you think of a coin, or many of you watching this might think of something in software development, where in that case, the term token refers to a small piece of data that represents something. What exactly does it represent? Anything. An example of this would be a token used to authenticate for an application. You log into a website or an API and you get a token in exchange. This token represents your ability to use that application. Well, now we are in the future. With the introduction of cryptocurrency and blockchain, anything can be a token. And everything we once knew about these computer things is being redesigned as tokens. So that's what we're going to be talking about. We're going to get to the bottom of this because this is confusing and really has the potential to disrupt everything we know about computing. If you're new here, this is Coin Breakthrough. We post videos every day at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. If you want to stay up to date with cryptocurrency, blockchain, making money, fat stacks of money. I'm kidding, we're not to that point yet, but if you want to keep up to date with the cryptocurrency industry, then be sure to subscribe and hit notifications because that'll let you know when I release new videos. Well, you already got that in your brain because, I said every day at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, I'll be here waiting. So now we've reached a point where you can think of a token as one, a coin, and two, a piece of data that represents something. And these have merged. Throughout this video, we will be using the Ethereum blockchain as an example, but this can apply to a lot of different blockchains. Ethereum is known for their tokens. You may have heard of ERC20 tokens or NFTs, but more and more blockchains are being built to either compete with Ethereum or offer something different when it comes to tokens. Where we typically think of things as concrete items, now they are becoming digital, and even more abstract concepts are becoming tokens. For example, BAT. You've probably heard of this if you've ever heard of the Brave browser. Basically, it is a token to represent attention, basic attention token. When you give your attention to an advertisement, you are rewarded BAT. So both real-world items are becoming tokens, such as art and ownership of real-world things, and more abstract concepts such as attention, which makes me wonder, how much is attention actually worth? Well, according to CoinMarketCap, one BAT is $1.16. It's probably changed since I wrote these notes, so let me double check. Wow, it's gone down. Sad. Our attention is becoming worth less and less every day. So it's a little hard to quantify what an attention is worth, but the token itself is worth $1.11. And viewing ads directly through the Brave browser, you can be rewarded this, or you can just buy the token and own it yourself without having to watch those ads. So we got BAT, but there are actually a lot of different examples of tokens that represent things. So the most common thing is it represents ownership of something. So an example of this is Tether Gold. A lot of people have heard of Tether, not as many people have heard of Tether Gold. With Tether Gold, one full token is your token of ownership to a troy ounce of gold. So you can take the address that owns that Tether Gold, paste it in here, and actually get what gold is associated with that, to which you can redeem in person in Switzerland, but that's besides the point. Now, I'm not sharing this to say, oh, go buy this. In fact, none of this stuff on this channel is investment advice, and it's not something I would definitely jump on right away either. Maybe we'll talk about that in another video, but it's out there. This is just an example of a token representing something else, in this case, ownership. Another token I wanted to talk about is gas token. So a gas token can be used when Ethereum gas prices are high to save on gas prices. And you can acquire these when gas prices are lower. Basically, ownership of that gas token and ultimately the burning of that gas token is your rite of passage to getting discounted gas prices. So those are some examples of tokens. Another really important category is not necessarily ownership, but a token that represents power. So when a token represents power or authority, you can make some serious decisions just by owning these tokens. And these are often known as governance tokens and can be used as a way to make decisions on different networks such that the entire community or the entire network has control of what happens with the network instead of some centralized development team or company. And, sometimes there's still going to be a company that supports a network. However, if we can have some decentralization with the decision making, that would be ideal, such that if the company just disappeared, the entire project can exist without someone managing it. Often these decisions are algorithmic and purely based on these governance tokens. So let's talk about an example of that, which is Comp. So I'm no means an expert in Compound, but here's a quick description. It's an algorithmic autonomous interest rate protocol built for developers to unlock a universe of open financial applications. And here are some examples of what use Comp. So the ability to decide the future of this product lays in the hands of those who own the Comp governance token. You've probably heard of Uniswap, which is a great way to exchange Ethereum tokens. Well, they have a governance token of their own, Uni. Since its inception, the Uniswap protocol has served as trustless and highly decentralized financial infrastructure. Inspired by Ethereum's vision, we have long committed to the ideals of permissionless access, security, and immutability, all indispensable components for a future where anyone in the world can access financial services without fear of discrimination or counterparty risk. And this is the point. Uniswap's success to date, achieved without involvement of the core development team since development, indicates that there is considerable demand for permissionless financial services. And then, they flex about all their achievements. Now, ideally, achievements like these are acquired with very little core development team involvement. And this is going on further with now particularly well positioned for community-led growth, development, and self-sustainability. The introduction of Uni, ERC20, serves this purpose, enabling shared community ownership and a vibrant, diverse, and dedicated governance system, which will actively guide the protocol towards the future. So I think from this you can get a pretty good idea of how these governance tokens work. Another important category of tokens are utility tokens. An example of this is BNB, or Binance Coin, and this is a coin that will offer a discount on trading when using the Binance platform. A lot of tokens will start off on the Ethereum blockchain just as an ERC20 token, but will eventually migrate to their own network. So for example, that's exactly what happened with BNB. That's what's happening with Crypto.com. They just switched from an ERC20 token to their own network. And this is a common way to basically have something that's started up, easy to go, and then once it builds traction, be able to take it and put it on its own network once there's enough support to make that happen. Now, it seems like there's just an overwhelming number of blockchains and different token types, and I agree, it is very overwhelming. And there's not a whole lot of communication between these tokens. The blockchains tend to stay in their own lane. So I think we're going to get to the point where there is introduced some more interoperability between blockchains. I think interoperability is going to be made more possible with networks like Polkadot, created by the dude that co-founded Ethereum and the Web3 Foundation. So this is designed for true interoperability. Polkadot enables cross-blockchain transfers of any type of data or asset, not just tokens. Connecting to Polkadot gives you the ability to interoperate with a wide variety of blockchains in the Polkadot network. And this project is supported by the Web3 Foundation. And yes, this is a foundation, but you also just hear Web3 on its own, which is a term to represent the decentralization of software. So in the web now, it's often a client-server setup where you request data from the server and you send data to the server. And everything on that server is owned by one entity and is typically very centralized. Yes, this data might be distributed across the world. For example, they might be using a database like Cassandra, and on the Cassandra homepage, it gives Apple as an example with 75,000 nodes with over 10 petabytes. So obviously that's going to probably be spread across the entire world, but this is still very centralized in ownership. It's decentralized or distributed in location, but it's not decentralized in ownership. It's very centralized. And this is what the Web3 movement is fighting against. So there is a war being waged between centralized ownership and decentralized ownership. And this is the most important thing going on right now. Now, to be clear, I'm not an anarchist who just wants to watch the world burn and then restart it, from fresh with decentralized networks. Rather, I think there can be adaptation, and a lot of companies are realizing, hey, this is what consumers want. Ultimately getting to the point where customers of these services like me or you, as well as a decentralized network, is what makes this possible. Instead of Apple or Google or Facebook or whatever big company name owning everything, it will be decentralized. All of this talk on distributed and decentralized data brings up a question of data ownership. Who actually owns this data? Well, in the example given earlier, like with Cassandra, Apple would be the one to own all of this data. In a decentralized network, it's a little bit more challenging to know. For some things, it's very clear. If there is a token that represents something, that token is owned by whoever has access to the private key behind that address. This is where NFTs come in, and it's becoming a very important part of our world. Verifiable ownership of digital assets is one of the game-changing things that's going on today. Up to this point, everything talked about in this video have been fungible tokens. And what this means is that if you had two of them, you could swap them and they would be exactly the same. Well, non-fungible tokens, every single one is unique, just like artwork. And that's why it's very common to see digital art being sold as NFTs. But it's not just digital art. We can make anything an NFT. So for example, a domain name, or a plot of land in a video game, or a certain character name in a video game, or even access to a real world event such as a flight or a concert. Imagine being able to buy a plane ticket and then it's just an NFT that you have ownership of in your wallet. That gives you access to the flight. Pretty much anything we do today can be restructured and redesigned using NFTs to make it possible. But what if we took this one step further? Because NFTs are owned by someone purely by their private key, we can build applications around this concept that completely replace the need of traditional software development concepts, such as logging in using a username and password. Instead, everything can be done through just a private key. I can realistically see a future where we log into our favorite websites using purely a private key, and that can be done simply by scanning a QR code with our phone. This is already being done with apps like OpenSea. You can log in with your wallet, and I already scanned this, and boom, here's my account. Here are all of my NFTs associated with this private key. And I know blockchain is supposed to be purely separated from centralized entities, but you know how the world works. I think it's going to get to the point where there's a possibility a wallet would be tied to an individual, where this would be a managed wallet by some government, where they manage the private keys. And this would really suck, but imagine an exchange where the exchange owns the private keys, but instead of that centralized exchange, you have a centralized government. And you just log into all of your applications and banks and everything using your identity's wallet. This would truly warp the way the blockchain is supposed to be used, but this would effectively be a way to control everything a person does, especially where wallets are deterministic, which means, I could have numerous addresses and spread out all of my different assets and all of my different tokens across different addresses. However, they would all be brought back to one core piece of ownership, which would be something like a seed phrase, or basically something to give access to all of those funds. And that seed phrase could be owned or managed by a government. I really don't want to get to that point because, then a lot of the benefits of blockchain would be sacrificed. Honestly, this all scares me. I want to know from you, though, what is something about blockchain technology that scares you, and where do you think it's going to be in 5, 10, 25 years? I really do believe blockchain is the future, whether we like it or not. And this is something I've been talking about on my programming channel for a while now, and people are just resistant to it. But 5 years from now, this is going to be a part of every computer science program. And pretty much to succeed as a software developer, you're going to need to be familiar with this stuff to some extent. Fortunately, though, this channel is not about software development. Whew, thank goodness. So you don't have to know all the details of how to program smart contracts and create cryptocurrencies, but it is very important to know a little bit about how they work. So if you made it this far in the video, you're off to a great start. And maybe this video was a little high on the spectrum of conspiracy and doomsday, but I think all this stuff is important to talk to and really realize that whoever owns that seed phrase or that private key owns that wallet. So when you are managed by a centralized entity, whether that's an exchange or a government, they have ownership and control and visibility to everything you are buying and selling, and transactions that represent a whole lot more than just ownership of items. They control what you have power over. They control different things with utility tokens and so forth. So let's start some discussion in the comments below. This is a very mind-opening video, so I really want to start some talk down below. So leave a comment, subscribe, like the video, and I'll see you in the next episode. Peace out.